This Halloween season, we don't want you to be scared of retirement.
And when your retirement day looms closer, it can be very scary, but it should be more like a fairy tale.
We'll tell you how to turn retirement chills into retirement thrills in this spooktacular episode of Retiring Today.
Welcome to Retiring Today. I'm here with, I know your real names, but first, we're dressed up. Clearly it's Halloween season, you're watching at home, and you might be wondering, why do these people look so ridiculous? Well, we're having a little bit of fun with the Halloween season today. So, Loren Merkle, we know you're a certified financial planner and that important stuff, but what are you channeling here today? What's the costume?
Well, Jace was just on set. My daughter, 8-year-old Jace, thought I was a boy witch.
Or a warlock.
Or a warlock, but she calls it a boy witch. We'll go with warlock, boy witch, whatever.
Scary. You are scary.
Very
like
scary.
Retirement can be. We'll get
Very
to that.
scary.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Sean Honkoff. He is a retirement income certified professional, a CPA, and today you're channeling
My inner mumminess.
your inner mummy. I like it. Okay. So we're gonna wear the costumes today because we're having fun with the Halloween season, but in reality, what's not fun for some people, Loren, is thinking about retirement. It can be a little bit scary and overwhelming.
Yeah, it most definitely can be scary. I mean, think about retirement as a time frame in life that we've always dreamed about. We've thought about this day when we get to retire, we have all this free time on our hands, and so we think about it in this very positive light. And we should, by the way. That's a really good thing. But then as we get closer to retirement, we start realizing there's situations we're going to have to go through, decisions we are going to have to make that are going to be permanent decisions that could have everlasting impacts on the rest of our lives. And that's where it gets really scary because there's not a lot of good information that's out there to help pre-retirees make these decisions and the transition to the retirement years. And that's what we're going to do here today is really try to focus on some of the things that do haunt people as they go to the pre-retirement and then transition to the retirement years to help take the scariness out of your retirement.
Yeah, and Sean, excuse me, I'm not sure if you're Mummy, if you're Loren, but I know you're Sean for right now. So how to take the scare out of retirement, one of the great ways to do it is by having an income plan.
Having an income is one of the first places that a lot of families go to. And going back to Loren's comments of retiring being such a scary decision, to retire itself, we see all the time. We have these conversations as we meet families on, well, am I going to retire? Am I ready to retire? They're not always sure what they're going to do, but as they plan for that retirement, having an income plan, knowing what that income is going to look like is a very critical part to developing that comprehensive plan. There's going to be a day where you want to be confident that you're ready to walk away from this reoccurring paycheck and now turn this pile of retirement savings into an income plan. Having that reoccurring paycheck that we have every Friday, every 2 Fridays, that provides us with certainty. We know we can continue to live our life, pay our bills. We know that paycheck's going to be coming in. Developing that income plan as you start thinking more and more about retirement also provides us with that certainty that a lot of families are looking for.
And that's the number one scare that people come to us with is when they retire, where's this income going to come from at point of retirement? But how do they make sure that they don't run out of income before you run out of time? That is a huge concern or a huge scare of most pre-retirees. They want to know, do you have enough? Do you have enough to do the things that you want to do in retirement and still not have to worry about running out? Because the scary part is you've been working, you make this income, and then you go to a time frame where you have all this free time, and free time costs money. Think about where you spend most of your money today. It's on the days that you don't work. For most people, it's weekends. And in retirement, it could be 30 years, 20 years of weekends that now you have to support. And that's what the retirement plan does, is it demonstrates here's how much income you can take now to do what you're trying to do. Here's how much income you can take later, and it can beat inflation. And the plan can beat inflation and taxation and still supply all the lifestyle needs that you are looking for from a retirement income plan.
And we see a wide range of total savings amongst the families and individuals that we work with, and that scare is there no matter what. Whether you've saved maybe a couple $100,000 or you've saved a few million, people are still concerned. Do I have enough? Am I going to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to have in retirement.
And one of the best ways to fight the scare, Loren, has to be to show them, to write it down, to say, here's your plan, here's how you're going to get to and through retirement. That has to alleviate that scare.
It's one thing for Sean, Abby, and I to sit across the table from somebody and say, John and Lisa, you are going to have enough money in retirement. It's another thing to sit in front of John and Lisa and say, John and Lisa, look, this is what your retirement income plan looks like when you're 62, when you're 66. Here's where the income specifically is going to come from. Here's how you maximize the 81 different options when it comes to taking your Social Security strategies. Here's income that's going to be there for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. And then here's the supplemental income that's going to add on top of the guaranteed income to supply that discretionary lifestyle that people have grown accustomed to and they want to continue to maintain throughout the retirement years.
Are you having any trouble taking them seriously with those gloves on?
I have no problem with the gloves. I like it. I wish I had one of them.
I know, I was thinking just one glove.
We could arrange that. My finger's a lot pointier with these gloves.
They're kind of fun. So let's go back to Joe and Lisa. Let's go back to Social Security as you talk about kind of fight the scare of income. Making that election is not as simple as just signing up when you hit, retirement age. You have to look at a lot of other factors.
We have to look at a lot of other factors because Social Security, when you elect your Social Security decision, after 12 months, it's a permanent decision. So you're not going to change that decision. It's lifetime income that will not run out. If you have other lifetime income sources, if you're lucky enough to have a pension, then that pension decision will coincide with when you take your Social Security, and then the investment income that you deliver. The Social Security income, pension income, if you have it, that is going to be taxed at ordinary income, or at least the Social Security will be for most people. The investment income, if you can create some tax diversification, then you're going to have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more control over what tax you pay on that investment income, where you don't have that control on the pension and not as much control on the Social Security. So there's a lot of levers that you can be pulling to deliver this income, which is why the retirement income plan is so necessary. Not only to alleviate the scare that you may have of the curiosity of do you have enough, but also to really maximize these different resources, all of these different resources that you've spent a lifetime accumulating.
Sean?
And as individuals and families get closer to that election age of 62, the earliest Social Security election age, it's very natural. They start doing some research, they start having some conversations, they start asking everybody that they're bumping into, well, what do you do? When should I elect Social Security? They come into us and they are so unsure of what to do. Again, it feels very scary. Well, when can I turn it on? If I stop working, does my benefit stop growing? What's that range? What's the growth that you get? It's the plan. The plan is a very essential part to help you guys make that decision of how do I best try to maximize Social Security? When should I turn on that benefit?
In today's episode of Retirement Today, we're trying to take the scariness out of retirement. We'll talk about the scare and the concern for paying for health care when retiring today continues.
Don't let 2020 derail your retirement. Join us for a complimentary workshop from 6 to 7:30 p.m. During this retirement workshop, you'll discover how to use market volatility to your advantage, tax-saving strategies to grow your retirement savings, and investing mishaps and how to avoid them in a down market. Spots are limited due to social distancing guidelines. Register now for this complimentary retirement workshop by visiting merkleplan.com.
You've heard stories from your family and friends. You may have even received a few calls from sales agents who want you to purchase this plan or that plan. Misinformation about Medicare is everywhere. How do you know what is important and what is just noise? Join us for a complimentary educational Medicare breakfast workshop on Thursday, November 5th at the Machine Shed Restaurant in Urbandale. Spots are limited due to social distancing guidelines. Register now by visiting merkleplan.com.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. It's clearly Halloween season, and today we're having fun. We got all dressed up because we're talking about the scares of retirement. So he looks like a boy witch, as his daughter called him, but he's really Loren Merkle, a certified financial planner and a certified financial fiduciary. And he looks like a scary mommy, but he's really Sean Honkamp, a CPA and a retirement income certified professional. And guys, I've decided I'm a Vampire Witch, does that work? Vampire Witch, sure.
Works great.
It's kind of a
great.
pretty cape. I like this one. So, the scares of retirement. We're going over what can be scary about retirement. The process itself can be scary. So, how to combat those fears. The next scare we want to talk about, Sean, is healthcare. People are scared about how to pay for healthcare in retirement.
Rarely do we have a visit or a meeting or even a review with whether it's new families or existing families that we work with that we're not talking about healthcare, right? We all want to have a very joyous, fun, exciting retirement. We all believe and hope that we have a long 20, 30, 40-year period of being very healthy. But the uncertainty around healthcare, the costs, what your own individual paths might look like causes a lot of angst as we think about retirement planning. Never has 63 and a half been so popular as a retirement age, the reason being that if we stay with your current employer till that time frame, now we can utilize COBRA for 18 months. It gets us to that magic age of 65 for Medicare. For individuals and families that are fortunate enough in a position where they can retire early or young, meaning late 50s, early 60s, where they have more than that 18-month gap where COBRA can cover it, they're always asking questions. There's that uncertainty of, well, how much is this going to cost? Just in a meeting this last week, meeting with a new family, and they said, well, somebody told us to expect maybe $36,000 a year. And they went to somebody else and said, oh, it'll be much less than that. They didn't give them a number, they just said much less than that. Well, what is much less?
Right.
And that's kind of a scary statement. We don't know what that means to you versus me. That can be quite a range, but not knowing what that's going to be, not knowing the impact to our financials, having that plan is going to help provide some comfort around that healthcare and long-term care category.
And when people read studies like it's going to cost them on average $280,000 from age 65 to the end of their retirement just for healthcare alone, not even long-term care, how scary is that? Because there's some people who don't have $280,000 saved for their retirement assets, and then they're faced or forced with potentially a retirement full of all of these healthcare costs. And going into retirement, you've never had to face a situation, most likely, where you don't have the healthcare coverage that you think you need to maintain or at least get through that type of cost over the course of your retirement.
So talking about fighting this scare, you guys, so we set up the scare, it's an expensive cost. But Loren, the good news, I think, is you don't have to have the $280,000 saved in order to pay for it. There are some ways you can get creative with your retirement planning.
Well, this is where we're always talking about how these different guiding principles of the retirement plan work together. So this is the healthcare, Medicare, long-term care. That is one of the guiding principles, but it works really succinctly with the income component, the income guiding principle, because how you would pay for potentially $280,000 of healthcare costs from 65 to the end of retirement is embedded within your retirement income plan. How much do you need for the bare basics? That is healthcare, is for your housing, is for your food, all these things that you have to pay for every single month. And then what's left over that is that discretionary income. That's that activity plan of what it is you want your retirement to look like. Traveling, it's the second home, it's the grandkids, all of that kind of stuff. So how you pay for healthcare should be specifically identified within the income plan, and that alleviates some of that scare of how you're going to pay for that healthcare cost.
And did you want to specifically talk about one of the strategies, like a life insurance hybrid model?
Yeah, so there's the healthcare costs and now the long-term care costs. One of the biggest scares for retirees. So for pre-retirees, it's the healthcare cost to get them to age 65. Now, once you're age 65, you're on Medicare, most of you are. And then it's how do you cover this long-term care risk? Because long-term care, if you fast forward and now you're 75, you're 78 years old and you need an extra $10,000 a month for long-term care needs, that is scary. So but if you wait until you're 77 or you're 78 and then you need it, the planning is too late. So you need to plan for this as you make that transition into retirement. And the old school way or the traditional way of offsetting some of that risk is a long-term care insurance policy. The problem with the traditional long-term care insurance policy is, what if you never need long-term care? You pay these premiums month after month, year after year, and you never need it. Those premiums go to the insurance company. And what we're seeing now is a lot of these premiums every year are increasing. So many retirees are faced with a decision every year: do I pay these increased premiums, or do I pay these increased premiums and maybe never need to use long-term care, or do I let it go and then not have that coverage?
Right.
And that's the part of the planning. And a lot of times as we work with individuals, they assume, well, if we're planning for something, that means we're going to do something. But that's not always the case, right? Planning can help you really get to a comfortable spot where your decision may be to self-fund. It may be to just assume that risk, or it may be we don't necessarily need to mitigate the entire exposure that you might have for long-term care, but you can do some things, make some decisions to at least protect yourself and limit that total exposure.
Yeah, so as a specific example of how you can use a non-traditional way to offset some of that risk is what is really popular now is to have a long-term care life insurance hybrid policy, which means that, and really the benefits here is the premiums are level. So in this example that we're showing you on the screen, you're only paying premiums for 5 years. After that 5 years, and by the way, that 5-year premium, you know exactly what it is day one. And after that 5 years, you never pay another premium for the rest of your life. In this particular example, it's a joint policy. So this couple is married, and this policy covers either one of them. So if either one of them needs long-term care, either in a facility or at home, then this policy will cover those risks. The total investment per year is $37,250. So if we multiply that by 5, the total lifetime investment is $186,000. Okay, now if they never need long-term care, then they pass away, there is a death benefit of $166,000.
And that goes to them, or they can go to their loved ones
That
too.
goes to their beneficiaries.
Beneficiaries,
Yep,
okay.
so it's a death benefit. So if I am looking at offsetting some of my long-term care risk, I'm looking at this and saying, worst case scenario, I never need long-term care. I'm investing $186,000. I pass away and my beneficiaries receive $166,000. That total investment cost is $20,000.
Sure.
To offset the anxiety of what if I need long-term care. Whereas the traditional sense, you might spend $100,000 over the course of your retirement on long-term care premiums. You never need it, that $100,000 is gone. So this is a way that you really shrink the amount of investment that you have embedded within offsetting long-term care risk. But if you do need long-term care, then the policy, and this is by the way for either one, if either one needs long-term care, then it will pay $5,000 a month for the rest of the time they need that care for either spouse. So in this scenario, what it's doing is it's really minimizing your out-of-pocket risk for long-term care mitigation, and it's providing you with a really healthy benefit in case you do need long-term care. And it's a way that you can make sure you have the coverage, or even if you don't need the coverage, then your beneficiaries get tax-free death benefit.
Okay, we're talking about some of the scares of retirement. Sean, investment risk feels scary sometimes.
Who out there doesn't think the stock market is just outright frightening? It's one of the components of the plan that we really have minimal control over. We don't know what the markets are going to do. We don't know what might cause them to go up, what might cause them to go down. Losing money in the market is certainly a fear of pre-retirees and retirees. So many people like to measure the success of their plan based on that performance, but what we see is that strong performance in the markets doesn't always equate to a strong plan. Likewise, poor market performance doesn't mean poor plan. Our focus is always on that comprehensive planning. Let's utilize that plan to make smart decisions. We can control how much exposure we have in the market and how much we are impacted by the markets. We can't control that market performance. So we stress we're going to help you to be transparent with how we invest. Let's be intentional with how much risk we're taking. Let's make sure that we're not risking the success of your retirement in the stock markets, which is something we have little control over.
It's time for our Ask the Advisor segment. Lori from Pella has this question. Lori says, what tax planning should I consider at the end of the year? We'll answer Lori's question, and we've got one more scare to talk about when Retiring Today continues.
Don't let 2020 derail your retirement. Join us for a complimentary workshop from 6 to 7:30 p.m. During this retirement workshop, you'll discover how to use market volatility to your advantage, tax-saving strategies to grow your retirement savings, and investing mishaps and how to avoid them in a down market. Spots are limited due to social distancing guidelines. Register now for this complimentary retirement workshop by visiting merkleplan.com.
You've heard stories from your family and friends. You may have even received a few calls from sales agents who want you to purchase this plan or that plan. Misinformation about Medicare is everywhere. How do you know what is important and what is just noise? Join us for a complimentary educational Medicare breakfast workshop on Thursday, November 5th at the Machine Shed Restaurant in Urbandale. Spots are limited due to social distancing guidelines. Register now by visiting merkleplan.com.
Welcome back. Before the break, we had this question up on the screen. Here's again. Lori from Pella says, what tax planning should I consider at the end of the year? Sean Honkamp / Scary Mummy, what would you tell Lori?
I'm a CPA and I think tax planning is scary. So I get the sense that a lot of you out there might feel the same as well. Lori, as we come upon the end of the year, there are some things that you want to be thinking about. Once that calendar flips to January 1st of the following year, some of the tax strategies that you may have wanted to consider and evaluate and implement for that prior year are now behind us. So I would say let's start looking at maybe sometime in the fourth quarter, start looking at maybe what total income is for the year. Start looking at last year's tax return so that you know where you landed last year. You may want to consider doing some Roth conversions, maybe realizing some additional income for the year. The main reason we think about that, we like that strategy, taxes are on sale. We know taxes are going up in a few years. Let's be intentional with our taxes. Let's spend a little time on it prior to the end of the year. It'll pay off for you in the long run if we end up having a lower overall tax rate.
So the reason we're wearing the costumes today is, of course, it's Halloween season, so happy Halloween if you celebrate that holiday. And also we're talking about kind of the scares of retirement, but we're trying to take the thrills out, or the chills out, and add thrills, something like that. And one of the scares is, the last scare we want to talk about, Loren, is taxes. Taxes going up. Sean just alluded to it.
Yeah, this last scare is so scary. This is where I need to put the mask on to really represent how scary taxes really are. I mean, people are scared of market risk, but tax risk is so much scarier over the course of their retirement than even market risk. I mean, if we think about what the market can do to erode people's portfolio, if your portfolio is down by 20% and you stay the course, eventually it's going to come back up. If you pay 20% in taxes, you will never get that money back. And worse yet, you're probably going to pay 20% next year. And then what if taxes go up, like Sean predicts? If taxes go up, instead of 20%, you're paying 30%. This is the biggest wealth eroding factor when it comes to retirees' retirement. This is why tax planning is absolutely essential, and some of the most effective tax planning strategies you have to implement prior to 12/31 of the year, meaning you can't wait till you file your taxes in the spring to implement some of these strategies. So in the retirement plan with our families every year, and a lot of times, multiple times per year, we are looking at their individual situation and saying, here's what you should be looking at from a tax plan this year. Here's what we should be looking at from a tax plan last year or next year, and so on to make sure that they get the most out of their investable resources. They get to keep the most and send the least amount possible to the federal and state governments.
And tax planning is one of those areas that just doesn't get enough attention. If you manage your own finances and aren't doing tax planning, it's something that you need to be thinking a little bit more of. If you're working with an advisor and if they aren't talking about tax planning, again, it's something that needs a little bit more attention. A lot of the families that come in and meet with us, they aren't really thinking about tax planning right away, right? The focus is on the investments, the focus is on healthcare, right? But we have tax planning as one of our 5 main guiding principles of the overall plan. We enjoy talking about taxes, and as you said, Loren, it's something we're talking about every year, right? We're going to revisit it every year. We want to be as efficient as possible with our taxes every single year.
And part of the confusion with tax planning is people think that they engage in tax planning every year because every single year we file our tax return. Many people use a CPA to help them file that tax return, and a lot of people feel like that is tax planning. That's not the type of tax planning we're talking about. We're talking about while tax rates are on sale, you have this bulk of your retirement savings and money that you've never been taxed before. Does it make sense to start paying on taxes on a piece of that now while tax rates are low? That way you pay less taxes when tax rates go up. And one of the strategies to do that is take some of that money from the pre-tax, convert it over to the Roth. Once it's in the Roth, it grows tax-free forever. one strategy. There's many strategies that we look at, and that's why it needs to be custom based on your circumstance and what you're trying to accomplish.
Loren, you talk about many strategies. The scares that we've covered today, they're just some of the pieces of the retirement puzzle. A great way to learn more about retirement is to attend one of our workshops. What I want to know, Loren, at the workshops, will you be dressed as the scary demon, or what do you wear at the workshops?
Well, Chase asked me to wear this for every Halloween, so
So there you go.
Maybe at the workshops I'll wear it as well. Regardless of what I wear, this or anything else, we will be talking about how to take the scare out of your retirement, how to engage in effective retirement planning to minimize the impact of taxation, to maximize the amount of income that you have, to maximize the amount you transition over to your loved ones and charities in legacy planning. And we're going to focus on some very intentional strategies that you may be able to take right out of that class and implement right away to improve what you're trying to accomplish from your retirement vision.
Yeah, we promise the workshops won't be scary, right, John?
They are not scary at all, but you never know. You don't know what we might be wearing. So.
So they're not scary. They're actually pretty easy. Go to merkleplan.com. They're complimentary workshops. You can sign up right there. You can also see when and where they are and what workshop might be near you. A couple of other things we want to tell you about, a couple of other places where we try to talk about retirement is our podcast, Retiring Today. It's an on-the-go way to get the latest in retirement. We also talk about a lot of topical stuff and have a lot of fun on our podcast. And of course, we have a YouTube channel. It's Merkle Retirement Planning. Put that into that YouTube search bar and you can see some of the other television shows that we've done. You can see what we look like when we're not dressed as Halloween characters as well. You can also always watch this show. It's Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching. Should we go trick-or-treating or to a bar?
Don't let 2020 derail your retirement. Join us for a complimentary workshop from 6 to 7:30 p.m. During this retirement workshop, you'll discover how to use market volatility to your advantage, tax-saving strategies to grow your retirement savings, and investing mishaps and how to avoid them in a down market. Spots are limited due to social distancing guidelines. Register now for this complimentary retirement workshop by visiting merkleplan.com.
You've heard stories from your family and friends. You may have even received a few calls from sales agents who want you to purchase this plan or that plan. Misinformation about Medicare is everywhere. How do you know what is important and what is just noise? Join us for a complimentary educational Medicare breakfast workshop on Thursday, November 5th at the Machine Shed Restaurant in Urbandale. Spots are limited due to social distancing guidelines. Register now by visiting merkleplan.com.
From our family to yours, we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
We hope you enjoy the show.
We'll see you next week.